What is going on, everybody? Let's talk Chicago Bears again today. Just talked last night, but we got more stuff. We got more stuff. Like I told you last night, it never stops. And also, like I mentioned last night, and like I will essentially attempt to mention all the time, please do not forget if you have not yet liked this video or subscribe to this channel and you enjoy this Bears conversation, the Bear Talk, please make sure you keep it locked for my perspective on everything that happens in Beardom. Is that a thing? I don't know. I might have just made that up. All right. So anyway, Bears Ravens Sunday. It's time to shake off all of the good feelings from the last victory. Bears in Baltimore on Sunday. And the thing is, obviously, I think everybody knows this is the Baltimore Ravens, and they're 1-5. But if Lamar Jackson plays, you can throw that record out of the window. It means nothing. If Lamar Jackson plays, this is not a 1-5 team. So the big question at this point is Lamar playing? That's pretty much it. That is the biggest question of the day overall in Chicago football. Like, Bears fans are watching to see if Lamar Jackson is playing just as hard as Ravens fans are likely watching to see if Lamar Jackson is playing. So I will tell you this. He did go out there and practice today. It looked like he was limited. He returned to practice. It was his first time he'd been on the practice field since he injured it more than 3 weeks ago. From what I can tell, he definitely was not a full participant. It was light participation. And there's conversation out here that's suggesting that he probably might. There's a chance he'll still miss this game against the Bears. I won't say probably, but I think the report came from Tom Pelissero, or was it Dan Graziano? I think it was Dan Graziano from NFL.com, saying that he's hearing that Lamar will actually still probably miss this game. So we don't know. There's a visual with him on the practice field, which definitely tells you he's ramping up towards coming. But then there's the report that says he might miss. There's one other thing you have to consider. This is always like a mind game between the two teams as they're about to play each other. The Ravens probably, if possible, they would like to create as much deception as possible for the Bears to try to prepare. So Lamar Jackson gets on the practice field. Obviously, that word gets out. The Bears are like, oh, okay, Lamar's playing. Is Lamar playing, or is he not playing? We heard Ben Johnson today in the press conference say, we're preparing as if he's playing, which is the smart approach, right? Because if I prepare for Lamar Jackson and only have to deal with Cooper Rush, you're still fine. More than likely, yes, they play different styles, but Cooper Rush has struggled mightily to get anything going offensively for this team. So if you're prepared for Lamar Rusher, I don't rush. I mean, if you're prepared for Lamar Jackson, I do not think you'll have a tough time transitioning and adjusting and then playing well against Cooper Rush, especially the way the defense has been playing, forcing turnovers in the whole nine. So I think Ben is approaching it the smart way by saying that we're preparing as if Lamar is playing. I think the Ravens are doing a smart thing, playing it close to the vest all the way up until the final, the last bit of it. If I were the Ravens, I'd have Lamar out there in some capacity every day this week, all the way through Friday, and literally make it like a game time decision. If I'm the Ravens, that's the way I would play it. I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know how far this will go. This is going to be a story all week. Is he playing or is he not? I think the Bears obviously have a good chance to win this game, even if he does play, because even if he does play, I have to wonder, is he going to be at or close to 100%? And if he is significantly impaired from actually running and scrambling and creating plays with his legs, Lamar can hurt you everywhere at this point. This is not rookie year Lamar where he has to run. But obviously, when he cannot be mobile, that is when he, you essentially have one half of what makes him so special, not quite as special. So I love Lamar Jackson. I hope he's healthy moving forward, but I would not mind if you miss this one, Lamar. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Let us get it all together, and then hey, later on in the season, maybe the Bears we're ready to face whoever. But I wouldn't mind if Lamar misses this one. It won't bother me one bit. There's some tough games coming down the stretch that you will not be able to avoid. Obviously, you want to get to the playoffs. There's going to be tough matchups everywhere. You got to get them. Got to get them in. I would just like to see this team move to 5-2, and the path of least resistance does not bother me. But if Lamar plays, I still think the Bears have a good chance to win the game. So that's all we have for Lamar today. But let's circle back to something we talked about last night, which is the trade focus. I still believe that pass rush and corner is where the Bears should more than likely be looking for a trade. And Jermaine Johnson's name popped up again. It popped up on an ESPN report this morning as a player that I think they picked a player for every team who is most likely not to be on their current team at the trade deadline, which is in a little bit less than 2 weeks right now. And Jermaine Johnson was the guy that was picked for the Jets. And so then they have the potential fits. And the Bears team name came up again with this. This is now, I want to say, the second or third time in the last 24 to 48 hours that an outlet has mentioned the Bears in conjunction with Jermaine Johnson. Still, I always caution people whenever we're talking about these reports, until you hear Adam Schefter or one of the more respected NFL journalists say, sources have told me the Bears have inquired about a trade. Sources have told me the Jets are shopping Jermaine Johnson and the Bears are a likely suitor. Until you see a report like that, it's not a report like the one we read today, which is cool. I loved it, and it does bring some validity to the conversation, right? But until you hear a report like that from Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, somebody on that level, or one of the local people in Chicago or in New York come with that report, do not get to the point where you're thinking, oh, well, yeah, the Bears are talking to the Jets about Jermaine Johnson. No, we can't say that yet. We cannot say that yet. There's nothing that has come out that has validated that the Bears are literally talking to. There's just a lot of people putting two and two together, saying the Bears obviously have need for pass rush. The Jets are horrible. They're 0-7. They should be in sale mode. What valuable player do they have on their roster that they could flip for draft picks? So that brings me to my next thing. I did some research and some digging and some just kind of comparative stuff. If the Bears were going to try to go after Jermaine Johnson, probably they won't be alone. There'll be some other teams that'll be interested. I would imagine the Bears, and a lot of Bears fans are not going to like this, but the Bears might have to come off of a second rounder and a fifth rounder, maybe both in 2026 to pry that away. Now, the Bears could try to protect themselves by having a clause in the contract or in the deal that says that if Jermaine Johnson plays less than whatever amount of games or has less than a few amount of sacks, then that fifth round pick can then de-escalate down to a sixth round pick, or it could be swapped. That could happen. And the reason why the Bears might be interested in doing something like that is because Jermaine Johnson had a serious Achilles injury that cost him literally most of the 2024 season, and even missed some games to start this season. So far this year, he's played 4 games, feels like he's kind of ramping back up more so. He has 1 sack so far this year. So if that concern is a big deal, and the Bears would be on the hook for his salary as well, which I believe carries, let me see, I'm looking at what we looked up here. His salary is not crazy, right? It runs through 2026, but if they pick up his option year for 2026, I believe it's $13.4 million. So that's not That's not a cheap contract, but it would be a motivator for him to come in 2025 and have to, of course, try to make an impact. But an Achilles injury on a edge rusher is obviously on any football player, honestly. But an Achilles injury on an edge rusher is obviously going to be a big deal. The Bears could work out something with the Jets. Now, this is all hypothetical, I say. The Bears could work out something with the Jets where the Jets absorb some portion of his 2025 salary to kind of lighten that load a bit. The Bears might even be able to negotiate this down and maybe say third and a fourth round pick as opposed to a second and a fifth. That could happen. It really depends on how eager the Jets are to move him, assuming that they are, how thirsty the Bears are to get an edge rusher, which they should be, and how much competition will be out there for Jermaine Johnson services, which you would expect there should be a lot. I mean, you got to consider this dude physically is a stud, and 6'5", 254, 260 pounds in there. Went to Florida State, was a first-round pick in 2022. Came out the gate pretty decent. Rookie only had 22.5 sacks, but 2023, he had 7.5 sacks, which really showed, like, yeah, we're about to do this. Then he gets the Achilles injury in 2024, which really derailed things. So he's the guy I'm probably most excited about of every name that's been mentioned, with the exception of Jeffrey Simmons. That's a whole different thing. But more recently, he's the guy that I'm the most excited about the potential of grabbing amongst the people that the media has begun to write about more recently. So we'll see how that one shakes out. Again, we got about, I don't know, just under 2 weeks before the trade deadline. So we'll get to that. My last thing today is about Charles Peanut Tillman. So him, I think it's like Olin Kreutz, Reuben Brown, and somebody else. I can't think of who else it is. Went to the next round of qualifications to be voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so obviously, whenever that happens, I talked about this a little bit earlier this year when Matt Forte didn't make it to the next round. And the question is Charles Tillman a Hall of Famer? And honestly, it's complicated. It really is complicated with Charles Tillman, and that can be the case in football a lot, right? But I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna make a case for him, and then I'm gonna make the case against him. But let me say this before I get into it. I'm a huge Charles Tillman fan. Loved him. I saw him at All-Star Weekend. I think it was the Celebrity Game, NBA All-Star Weekend. In the Celebrity Game, I can't remember where. I don't know, what was it? I can't remember where this game was at, but it was All-Star Weekend. I was there. Common played. Bunch of people. I saw him in the stands. I saw him. He wasn't standing in the stands. He was up on the ramp or whatever. I walked right up to him, shook his hand. He just looked at me. He was a little startled that I walked right up to him and shook his hand, but I shook his hand. He was real cool. Just a good guy. And I've always been a huge fan of him. Was a huge fan as a Bear. But I'm going to make the case for him and the case against him. So here's the case for him. It's really all about this peanut punch. That's what it's about. And you might say, oh my God, come on, there's more to it. No, but I'm going to explain to you why the peanut punch is really, if Charles Tillman gets into the Hall of Fame, that is his ticket. He has 44 forced fumbles in his career. Do you realize that makes him top 10 in NFL history for forced fumbles? I'm not talking about top 10 amongst corners, secondary players, or the second defensive backs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the history of the NFL, everybody who has ever played, he is, since the stat has been kept, he is in the top 10 all time in forced fumbles. He is the only non-pass rusher in that group. He has more forced fumbles than people like Lawrence Taylor, Richard Dent, Terrell Suggs, TJ Watt, and a bunch of other people that you definitely have heard of. That skill, for me, is what set him apart from everyone else who has ever played in the secondary in NFL history. Also, on top of that, the more primary thing that we look at when we talk about a corner, his coverage skills were solid. I mean, he was always a solid cover corner, always. So for me, that's the case for Charles Tillman. Now, here's the case against him. Tillman, his interception totals are far lower than the ones for most corners who actually go to the Hall of Fame. He had 38 picks in 13 years, which isn't shabby. Like, that's not trash, obviously, right? But it wouldn't put him in the upper echelon among corners or players who played that position. Unfortunately, though, for him, the voters have leaned really heavily on interceptions and a corner's reputation as a cover guy in their voting. And like I said, it wasn't like he was trash in those areas, but his numbers and reputation don't stand really high and above the rest of the group when you look at that. Also, Tillman only went to 2 Pro Bowls, and he only made 1 first team All-Pro. He also never won a Super Bowl. He played in one, and he also played for some strong defenses, but he doesn't have that team accolade that sometimes will push a guy over the top when we're talking about Hall of Fame consideration. If the proper emphasis is placed on his ability to force fumbles, which is truly unique, he could get in. But if not, and they stick to the script the way they have with corner evaluation, he's not going to get in. It obviously is a good sign that he made it this far and he hasn't been disqualified. But I'm telling you right now, the consideration has to be about the forced fumbles. That is what has been truly special, or what was truly special about him. Dude, the year the man was first team All-Pro, he forced 10 fumbles. That's unfreaking believable. Led the league in forced fumbles as a corner. I'm pretty sure that's never been done before. So that is pretty amazing. But I also would understand if he doesn't get in. So what's my answer? Is he a Hall of Famer? As much as I love Charles Tillman, I still have to say no. I would still have to say no, because your job on a down-by-down basis is to cover, defend passes, get picks. That's your job. That's more of your primary job. The forced fumble thing is extremely situational. And while he is amazing at it and all of that, I don't think that I'm really particular about who I call a Hall of Famer. And it's no major disrespect to a person. I think that Charles Tillman, like Matt Forte, I think Tillman's resume for the Hall of Fame is a little better than Matt Forte's. But I think both of those guys are perfect fits for a Bears Ring of Honor. I don't want to see people get, I said this in the Matt Forte video, I don't want to see any more numbers retired. I think pretty much almost every single number in the NFL, in the NBA should be put back, in the Major League Baseball should be put back into circulation, with the exception of like 42 in Major League Baseball. I personally don't think anybody else in the history of basketball should ever wear 23 again. Just my personal opinion. I don't know if there's a number in the NFL that I feel that way about. There's no player that I feel like has been so transcendent that nobody else should ever wear their number. If there's anybody, it's Tom Brady, 12. But I don't think that there's anybody so synonymous with a number in NFL history where their number should be retired, either with a franchise or across the league. I think the league should retire numbers moving forward, not franchises. I think franchises should go with Ring of Honors and Team Hall of Fames and that sort of thing. I think that's where Charles Tillman belongs. I hope that doesn't sound like an insult, because I don't mean it as that, because I love Charles Tillman. But I'm always going to be real. I'm always going to give my honest opinion, and I try not to let the fan in me speak when I'm giving an actual opinion about a football, basketball, baseball topic or combat sports topic. All things that I covered or have covered currently or have covered in my career. So that's what I got for you guys today. As always, appreciate your time, appreciate your viewership. Like I said, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. If you have not yet liked this video, also do that as well. We are trying to rebuild. We are trying to build it up, and I appreciate you every step of the way. God bless. Peace.